It's such a privilege being here. And I'm so moved. Thank you for the stories you told before. They really touched me. And I was so moved nearly to tears by what you said. The difference between calling and quests and so on. Building a values-driven society. When I was first asked to come here and speak on this conference, many questions came up to my mind. You know, why should we build a values-driven society, and how do we do this? And I decided that I wanted to speak about 3 things, actually, that I think can help us a little bit on this path. So I'm going to speak about personal stories. It's sort of a theme for this day. I'm going to speak about listening, another theme of this day. And I'm going to speak about water taps. Maybe another theme of this day. We'll see if you think that or not when I've gone through this presentation. And by the way, maybe you wonder who I am. And my name is Alexandra. I'm the founder of Caring Group of Sweden. I'm the CEO of this company as well. And as you can hear from there, I come from Sweden. So I want to give you a cultural context, because I know we come from many different countries. And Sweden is actually known for being the country lagom. And how many of you does know what the Swedish word lagom means? Yeah, a few doesn't know, so I have to explain. Lagom means that it was the Vikings actually who, when they had many years ago, they had this big, I don't know, horn maybe of beer or something like that. And they all shared the same horn. And everyone was supposed to drink just enough beer so that you would have enough beer to go around the team. So lagom means actually drinking enough so that the round would go around. The beer would be enough for everyone. So Sweden is known to be the country of lagom, where everyone wants to be lagom, because no one wants to stick out in any respect. But then we have one part that is quite interesting in Sweden, when we come to values. Do you think that we're lagom when it comes to values? Yeah. Here we have the cultural map from the World Survey, World Values Survey. And does any one of you, how many hasn't seen this map before? Oh, quite a few. Okay, good. In the World Values Survey, they do several times throughout the years. They look at the differences between values from different countries, and then they try to plot them out on this map, showing on the y-axis, going from traditional values up to secular rational values up at the top. That means that if you're in a country with a lot of traditional values, it's very important for you with family bonds, with religion, and normally you're quite conservative. You don't want, abortions aren't okay, divorce aren't okay, and things like that. But if you're secularized, it's more rational. It's more up to you and to the individual and to make rational decisions. On the bottom line instead are if you're having survival values or if you're self-expression values. And I pushed the button too early, so you can see up there is Sweden. And this is nothing about lagom in this position. This is actually a very extreme position where for us in Swedish society it's very much about making rational decisions, you don't have anything to hold on to. And it's all up to yourself. What do you want to express? What's your life about? So for a little while, I want you to think back to when you were 20 years old, or maybe 22. And some of you think back a long time, and for others, you're there. And think about if you were in this cultural context, how would you make a decision on and know the answer to what do you want to do with your life? So just think for a second, for a few seconds on yourself. How would you feel? And how many options would there be to what you would do and could do with your life if you were in Sweden? Is there a lot of options? All options. Yeah. Huh? Yes, everything is available. And if you're 20, when you were 20, did you know what you wanted to do?
Go wild.
Yeah, go wild. Maybe that's some of it. What happens here in Swedish society is that a lot of people feel very lost. And there's a lot of anxiety because you have so many decisions and so many options. And how should you decide? So keep that in mind when you hear my stories. That we're in a society where people feel lost. They can do whatever they want. They can express themselves. But they don't have anything to hold on to. Okay. And before I go into the stories that Nicholas loves, for example, I also want to give you a challenge. And I want to challenge you to listen today for the next 15 minutes. Listen with presence, but without thinking. And that really means that to listen with your body and your soul, and just being present with what happens. And of course you will think, but don't follow your thoughts, just observe them. And try to be present in the story. And see what happens. See what happens. And we will go back and we will do a reflection afterwards. You know, was there a difference when you listen with presence without listening with your mind on all the time? Are you with me? Are you going to do that challenge?
Yes.
Yeah? Good, thank you. Great. So then we have my story. And I will just be an example here, but I will start and share my story. And it starts 10 years ago, April 2004. I was 31 years old. I had a great job. I had just changed actually to a new job. I was married. Up until then, everything had just worked perfectly in my life. Oh well, sort of. It's sort of an exaggeration, but it had worked quite perfectly. And I had always, I had these great plans. I knew after I finished my studies at Stockholm School of Economics, I would get married within 1.5 years, and 1.5 years after that, I would have my kids. That was my plan. I was this really controlling, and it was for my quest, being successful, doing everything on my path. And I was standing there here in April 2004, and it was 3 years due to having my kids, due to my plan. And I had a life crisis. I wasn't happy. Changing work had not made any difference. I wasn't happy at my new job. I still, and I didn't know what to do with my life. And I went through a lot of different personal tests when I applied for this new job. And all the time, I didn't know what to answer, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what was really important to me, because I had two different parts of me. I had this really high achiever part of Alexandra, going to Stockholm School of Economics, checking off all the boxes, having a project plan for everything I was doing. And she was really, achieving a lot, but she was also pushing, and she was so tired. She was actually exhausted. And on the other side, I had this person who was really enjoying life, just wanting to sit out on the mountain or out here in the archipelago, watching the ocean. She was quite an introvert, just breathing, just being, just really going into deep conversations with people. And when I had to do all those personality tests, I could never decide, should I answer like the life-enjoying part of Alexandra, or should I answer like the high achiever Alexandra? And then this course came, the core course. And that was actually a course wanting us to dig into ourselves, personal development, in order to get more women to become entrepreneurs. Because when you dig into yourself, there is not that often a business description which suits you exactly, saying, you can be exactly this way and that's the job you're going to have. So it was personal development, and that's why I joined the course. And during that course, I realized that I did not have to choose. I could actually be both life-enjoying and a high achiever. But what I realized was that the life-enjoying part of me was the one who needed to rule my world, or make the decisions. Because when I was taking the decisions within that part of me, I didn't just climb and push myself to the top of this class. I moved back and I just pulled I had fun, I enjoyed myself, and I jumped to the next division. And it was like, wow, I'm cheating. But I was achieving so much better when I was in that part, in the life-enjoying part. And this is where the water taps come in. Because when I started realizing there what my purpose was, I realized that I want to make a positive difference for other people. It was that wide. But when I realized that, the water tap started slowly dripping. Maybe a drip every month of doing something really meaningful for another person. Making a positive difference. Okay, and what happened also is that I founded my first company, really reminding me of being this enjoying life part of me. And the same month when I had decided that now I have so much fun and it's so important, so I don't have time to have kids, then I got pregnant. Of course, nature telling me, Alexandra, you don't control anything. It's I'm in charge. So that was quite fun. Then we jumped to 6 years later. Again, April 2010. By this time, I was the manager of passenger services at Arlanda Airport. Many of you have come through the Stockholm Arlanda Airport. And I had taken on the position of being manager for 150 people, because I knew that through them, they could actually make a big positive difference to other people, because we were working with helping disabled people getting out into the world. We were helping young kids who would have to travel to their divorced parents by the flights and so on. And we were doing a lot of things like that, running all the information desks, helping people who were scared for flying and so on at the airport. But I wasn't happy. I still wasn't really happy. Because we had those beautiful value words, but we weren't living them. And one day, I walked into the elevator, and I took the elevator up to the floor where I had my office, and I just couldn't get out when the doors opened. And I could see, the doors shut, and I went down into the basement again, because we had to go through security for getting into to our offices. And I went back home, and my body system just shut down. I got this terrible migraine for the second time in my life, and I couldn't move or do anything for 2 days. Body just said that, you're not in the right place. And by then I had started to realizing that my body is so much more clever than my mind is. And I listened and I understood. And I think it took me nearly a month. But by that time I just knew that now I must leave. I can't stay in this position any longer. And actually, it was sort of a non-decision after a while. It was as if something came through me, telling me, Alexandra, now it's time to move somewhere. And I didn't know what to do, but I took the leap. I just jumped. And I said, I will found my own business. I don't know what I'm going to do. I know that I think it's profitable to care for people and to do good. But when they said, well, what's your business model? And I say, well, I don't know. I'm just going to go out and follow my purpose and live my values, and I see what will happen. And I did, actually. So 2 years ago, I left the airport. And the tap started dripping a bit more. And I found the courage within me to actually just jump and see what happens and hope that someone would hold me and catch me when I jumped off. April, again, 2 years ago, I was working and I met a lovely organization and a course called Value-Based Leadership. That was a leadership program that the Swedish Scouts and Guides movement held for young leaders in non-profit profit organizations everywhere. So around 100 people every year, young leaders from 20 to 25, that took this program. And I had by then realized that instead of working with all the old management teams in companies, I would make much greater impact if I could actually work with youth and work with young leaders, becoming self-confident and value-based early in their lives instead. So I jumped at this opportunity. And really, what happened there was that I met other people. Like Ali here on his left-hand side. He's fantastic. He's 19 years old. He's from Malmö and in an area called Rosengård. It's a socially deprived area here in Stockholm, or in Malmö in Sweden. And he said he has actually fled from the war in Kurdistan. And he moved here, and he had always thought that all the Swedes, they have such an easy life because you don't have a war on the outside that I had fled from. And Lucy on his right-hand side, she was one of the other trainers, and she told me about how when she called the police from Rinkeby, an area, a suburb here in Stockholm, because a man was breaking in through the glass window in the kitchen. When she called to ask for help, when that happened, the person on the other side, what she called 111, or 112, that's the number here, they said, the operator on the other side said, well, I don't believe you, stop calling me. Just because of the area where she called from. And then I met Willem. And Willem, he was so fantastic because he listened to the stories and he heard about a totally different part of Sweden that he would never have been aware of unless, listening to Ali's and Lucy's stories and the other stories. But his reflection on this was that, those people, Ali and Lucy, they're fantastic. They're doing enormous work with what they're doing with the youth organizations and being youth leaders there. But I could never do their job because I don't have their experience. And they could never be a good youth leader in my context with the people where I am. So he was 24 years old, realizing that he is unique and they are unique, and you all have to go out and do your story, no one else's story. Live your life, no one else's life. And then we have Alex. Alex is transgender, and when Alex was 1 year old, his first words was, no dress, no dress. And he was 1 year old, being born like a woman, or with the body of the woman. And those people, they changed my life. And the thing is that it's not only that I see Alex and I see Ali and I see Lucy and I can see their stories. It's like everyone else that I now see. When I move across the streets in Stockholm, I see all those people moving around. I start wondering, what's their stories? What has led them up to where they are? And what if, just by listening, I can make a difference, and they can start listening to themselves and start understanding that they have to go out and be their unique best selves. Yeah. And through doing this, working with people, my tap really started flowing with water. And, it was curiosity, and was also that I wanted to encourage people to live their lives. So I want you to pause, to make a pause here, and to listen and start reflecting on, what happens when you listen to someone else's story? What happens within you? And I think time is running out, so we will take this time now. I want you to think for a while, what happened when you listened to my story? What did you feel? What did you think? And what happened to our relationship? Do you think you know me a little bit by now? Connected. Yeah. And that's the shit. Connected. Really. That we're all connected. And I will give you, so you have to go out now in the coffee break and you talk about this, okay? You're with me with that. Because I want just quickly to say also, where am I now? Again, it's April, it's 2014 this time. And now it's about connecting the dots in my life. Now it's when I really found my calling. And when I've started to knowing that my purpose is not only making a difference, a positive difference for people, but making a positive difference for the many people. And this is scary like shit. You're actually saying, putting it up there, that it's making an impact for many people. And what I want to do now, and what I'm going for, that's really my calling, is to make going digital and creating a meaningful Facebook, sort of, where people start getting connected with each other from all across the world by interacting and talking about their values, what's really important to them, and sharing their personal stories. And doing that, and in that way, starting to get connected to someone that you would never have known in China, for example, and hearing their story, and starting realizing that it's not only that they have a story, because we have all those beautiful value words, but instead of just having them, going out and doing things together, and meeting people through the internet, making a big difference to many people. So that's what I'm going for now, and it's so scary, but it's like, now the tap is like this. And it's like I can't even decide any longer. It's like this just energy moving through me. And I can't do anything about it. Sometimes I've tried to stop that tap and saying I don't want to, it's too scary, I don't know how I'm going to make any or finance this, or how I'm going to put food on the table sometimes. But it's like I can't just say no, because it's just flooding through me. And as I said, purpose-driven and values-driven. It's not me any longer. I can't say no. It's just something that has to come through me. And I try to ride on the wave in the best way I can and see what I can do to make my impact in the world. So, my conclusion. We talked about personal stories. We talked about the importance of listening within to yourself, listening to others, see what happens, and listen without thinking. Just feel what happens. And then we have the water taps. And what if, because when I move across the world, and when I meet people and encounter them, I see so many closed taps. We're not dripping at all. But what if together we can, by just listening to each other, listening to each other's stories, we can actually make all those taps dripping or even running with meaning, people living their lives, doing their things. What can happen to the world? And this is not just, this is not just something that we need to do because it feels good for ourselves. It's actually something that we're obliged to do because each one of us is unique. But we're also part of being this one. And we need to make our contribution, our own contribution, not the contribution and living the lives of my father or of the group that I'm in or the student union or whatever. You know, living my life, what makes me happy, is also what the world needs you to do. Because we're all doomed to interdependence and we're all interrelated, and the world needs you doing your best thing, your unique thing. Otherwise it will be lost. So go out there and do it. Go do your thing. And this is what makes, changing from within, and be the change you wanted to see in this world. No one else can do it. So thank you for listening.